are assembly instructions for my wide pen boxes, and I have two versions. One has a base and then a separate lid, and the second one has an opening at the top to gain access to the inside of the box. I'm starting with the one that has the bottom and the lid. I'm going to start with my lid piece. I'm just folding down on all the score lines. And then I have another piece that's a frame piece. I'm flipping it over, so I'm looking at the underside of it, and I'm covering the underside in double-sided tape. So next I have a piece of acetate, and I'm removing the liner on my double-sided tape. And I'm positioning my acetate piece so that it's centered on my frame piece. So the acetate covers the rectangular cutout in the center of my frame piece. So now I'm covering both the frame piece and the acetate with another layer of double-sided tape. And then I'm taking my lid piece, I'm flipping it over so that I'm looking at the underside of it. I'm removing the liner on my double-sided tape, and then I'm placing my frame piece over the cutout that's on my lid piece. I'm trying very hard to match up that center opening. So next I'm going to flip my piece over, and I'm putting glue on the two tabs that are on one end. And then I'm folding those tabs under. The cut edge of my small side is right along the score line of my tab on both tabs. I'm going to do that on the other end as well. I'm putting glue on both tabs, tucking them under the small side, and gluing the cut edges to the score lines of my tabs. And so now I have these 4 flaps at the top. I'm covering those flaps in glue, and then I am folding them towards the interior of my box. And then I'm going in with my bone folder, and I'm just spreading that glue. I'm doing that for all 4 sides. I'm covering the flap in glue and then folding the flap towards the inside of my box. I'm just going to finish off the same thing for both ends, and that way you're covering up those tabs. All right, so that's my lid piece done. And now I'm going to assemble the bottom, and the bottom is very similar to that lid piece, but without the cutout for the window. So I'm looking at the inside of my box, and I'm putting glue on the 2 small tabs at the end. I'm folding my sides in and gluing those tabs to the short piece, and I want the cut edge of the short piece to be right along the score line of my tab. And I'm doing that with the other end as well, putting glue on both of those small tabs and then folding them inwards so that the cut edge is right along the score line. So just like for my lid piece, I have those 4 flaps, and I'm putting glue on all 4 of those flaps. I'm folding them towards the interior of the box, and then I'm going in with my bone folder and I'm spreading that glue, doing the same thing for both ends as well. So next I have this piece, and this piece is to keep the pen steady in the box. So I'm just folding down on all the score lines. I have a score line in the center of both holes. I'm pinching downwards on that score line, and then I'm putting my piece down on my craft mat, like so. So I'm just bringing up that center score line and folding the other score lines on either side so that my piece lays flat. Next, I'm flipping my piece over. I'm putting glue on the 2 grooves that folding has created. And then I'm just bringing the panels together and laying them flat like so. So now this piece has a tendency to want to tent upwards. So I'm taking the piece that I've cut out of the center of my lid, and I'm putting glue all over it. And then I'm flipping the stabilizer piece for my pen over. And then I'm just gluing this piece to the bottom, and I'm just spreading that glue. So that helps keep it flat. Another thing you could do is just glue it into your box, so the lid just fits over. Of course, the pen that I have handy is a Cricut pen. So now I have the second version, and this version has an opening at the top. I'm going to start with the main piece, and I am folding down on all the score lines for it. And this is my frame piece for this box. I'm looking at the underside of it, and I have a piece of acetate that fits over the opening. I'm adhering double-sided tape all around the frame. Then I'm going to remove the liner on my double-sided tape. Now you could use glue here instead of double-sided tape. You just have to make sure that it's a very good quality glue and that it dries completely before you move on to the next step. So now I'm just laying my piece of acetate down to cover that opening, and I'm going to put a second layer of double-sided tape over the first one. So my piece of acetate is sandwiched between 2 layers of double-sided tape. So next I'm removing the liner from the double-sided tape. I'm positioning my frame piece on the underside of my box piece, and I'm making sure that I am lining up the cutouts as perfectly as I can. So I have a thin tab on my left-hand side. I'm going to put glue all over that tab. I'm going to lay my piece flat. I'm going to fold over the other side so that I'm bringing the cut edge of the other side to the score line on my tab. So I have one end that has a little rounded edge, and on the other one I have 2 small tabs and 2 rectangular tabs. I'm putting glue all over those small tabs, then I'm folding up the tab from the back, then I'm putting glue all over it, and I'm folding down the tab from the front. I want the cut edge of the 2 larger tabs to be right against the score line of the smaller tabs on either side, so that will ensure that my box is nice and square. And I'm going in from the top with my bone folder, and I'm spreading that glue. So to close the box, you just fold down those tabs and then tuck in the rounded tab, and that seals your box. So I have 2 other pieces. This piece is just a tray that's going to hold your pen. The tray has a little hole at the top. I'm taking about 8 inches of embroidery floss, folding it in half, and then I'm putting the loop through the hole, pulling it through, and then putting my tails through and pulling them, cutting off the excess. And then I have this piece, and this is exactly like the other pen box. I'm folding down on all the score lines. So there's a score line that runs through both of these holes. I'm folding that in a mountain fold, and the score lines on either side are in a valley fold. That creates a little cradle for my pen. I'm putting glue in those V shapes created by the folds. I'm pushing both sides together and gluing them down, and it tends to want to pop up a little bit, so I'm using one of the cutouts from my window piece. I flip this over. I'm putting glue all over it, gluing it over those folds. And I'm going in with my bone folder and spreading that glue. That's the little insert, and my tray piece gets inserted inside my box, pushing down my embroidery floss and then tucking the tab in. So those are 2 different types of boxes to hold a pen. Initially, my insert was specifically made to cradle a pen that had a decorative top that was a little more dimensional than the rest, so I had to leave enough room for it. I've created another piece, another insert for a pen that's relatively plain. It'll fit better in the box. In the files, I've added both inserts, and you can choose between the 2 depending on what kind of pen you're working with. So for the box that has my daisies on it, I'm going to add a little embellishment. So I have this set of different styluses. Now this is for cake decorating, but they can also be used for flower making. So this is a foam pad. It used to be sold by Cricut. I don't think they sell it anymore. If you don't have one of these, you can use a mouse pad. A firmer mouse pad would probably be best. And I'm just making circles from the center of my flower to the outside. And it kind of cups my flower like so. I'm doing that with the second one as well, and for this one I'm using the smaller end. You may have a stylus from some of your electronics that could work as well, as long as they have a nice smooth end. I could pop these up with foam, but I think I'm just going to glue them down. So next I'm just grabbing some foam tape. I'm putting it on the underside in the center of my flowers, and I'm just going to glue them to my box.